All right, hello, welcome. Happy Valentine's Day. For those of you who may be watching for the first time, my name is Erin Finley. This is CJ Finley. And
what's up?
We decided that this would be a good time to film our first video where we're just sitting here on Valentine's Day in our new Thrive HQ that CJ works out of, and thought this would be a good start to producing more videos where we're getting more real, more vulnerable, being able to tell stories in just a deeper way. So tonight's the first night. We're gonna see how this goes. Just gonna wing it. We're having fun with this. So let's go.
Yeah, so this is the Honest Conversations with CJ and Erin Finley.
Okay, can we start over?
No, we're gonna roll with this. This is how you get better. So one of the reasons that we're starting this show is to improve ourselves so that we can have a bigger impact on the world, and also have some honest conversations about life and relationships that I think a lot of couples out there are not having, and we have them a lot, honestly, and that's where we think that we can give back in a bigger manner. And one of the discussions we had was, do we start a podcast or do we do videos? And we just feel like on Instagram and other social media platforms, writing a caption or doing a 1-minute video doesn't provide as much value as that we want to provide, compared to an actual honest conversation of what's going on in our life that might be able to help other people out there, maybe break through some of the things that they're working on and working towards. So here we are today on Valentine's Day.
But to be honest, I really want to do this because clearly I need help speaking to a camera and putting myself out there more. So here we are.
Yeah,
working
and
baby steps.
And maybe that can be inspiration for people out there, right? That if you're trying to work on something, I've been doing this for a little bit now, so you can kind of see the difference in the way of our tone and things of that nature, which is completely fine. Remember when I first started and it was like shot after shot after shot and you're making fun of me, and continue shot after shot after shot. So anybody out there that's watching this first episode.
Yeah, but you still ramble, so let's go.
Anybody that's watching this first episode, be inspired to go start and take action. And that's what this episode is about tonight, is taking action on your relationships, and how taking action on your relationships with yourself and with other people can help your entire life. So how do you want to kick this off?
So I think it would be cool to retell the story of how we connected and how we ended up married after knowing each other since we were 10 years old. For anybody that doesn't know that full story, let's just tell it. So I guess I'll taking the lead here. So CJ and I grew up together. We lived in a small town in New Jersey. We now live in Austin, Texas, as many know. A lot of our friends are here now. And we grew up about a neighborhood apart. He would ride his skateboard over to my little circle neighborhood, and we hung out with the same group of friends after school, on the weekends, in the retention basin. For those who don't know, that's like this little lot where they kind of fence it in, and we thought we were cool by going back there and riding bikes and on skateboards, and we would go into the field. And I just remember he had this one skater boy bike, and he had pegs on it, and I would remember riding like on the pegs, hands on his shoulders. And so that's one of the memories I have. There was also a time when I wanted to skateboard, so I asked my mom if I could have a skateboard. And
well, I did not know this.
Yeah, it just didn't
Did you
go
get a
well.
skateboard?
I think she got one from Walmart, but it didn't last very long. Then I converted that to one of those scooters, like a Razor. So anyway, we were friends growing up. I'll continue the story, I guess, until you want to interject and interrupt. And so through high school, we still were in the same friend group. I'd say we started to drift off a little bit in high school. Then in college, I went to school in Philadelphia.
But you're missing a whole point. Like, we used to date and go to the skating rink.
Oh, I totally forgot that part. I totally forgot.
And then you broke up with me on AIM because...
Okay, wait. So in, what was it, 5th grade?
Sixth grade.
Dating?
6th grade.
Okay, 6th grade, 12 years old, decided we had a crush on each other and that we should be boyfriend and girlfriend. And so to be in this relationship, that meant that we would go to the skating rink on Friday nights with our friends, obviously, and really all it entailed was for when there was a couples dance, we would get out there and hold hands for the whole song very awkwardly. And that was it. We exchanged gifts on Valentine's Day. You probably got me a bear
got a white
or something.
bear.
Yeah, I don't have it. And probably a card. And that was the extent of our 6th grade relationship. And so how it ended was I had overheard that in the trampoline next door to my house, CJ was playing these games with the neighborhood girls, and he had kissed one of the girls on the cheek. And I was just like, no way, we're not having it. So on Instant Messenger, I said, sorry, we got to break up. And he was heartbroken. I remember my mom being like, Erin, like, what are you, like, what? And I don't think I told her the reason why, but that was why. And so we remained friends, cordial. I guess it was rough for you. I don't know. Were you sad? How were you feeling in that time?
Yeah, I was pretty sad. But when you're, I guess, a 12-year-old boy, it like hits you a little bit differently in life. It was one of those things where, wow, like you have to think about the things that you do. You're going to have consequences later on, because when you're younger, you're not really thinking about those kinds of things. I'm actually
proud of myself for that action I took there.
Yeah, so, for standing up for yourself. I'm proud too that you like.
Yeah,
other than you could have done it. I
wasn't hesitant about that. Yeah, I probably did. Everyone can relate to the AIM days. It was just way easier to communicate on every level. And, you know, sometimes I wish there was something like that still. It was really easy to get to know people. I don't like texting. But anyway, so fast forward a little bit to high school, and we're still staying in the same friend group. You kind of drifted off a little bit. I got another relationship. But anyway, so we go to college. He goes to Rutgers. I went to UPenn in Philadelphia. Excuse the ambulance outside.
And I don't know if they can hear it. We have mics on.
Okay. And we kind of, I would say we only saw each other when we'd come home from school for Thanksgivings and Christmas. You always had that Christmas party. But again.
So this is where I have to interject, because
okay,
like
go ahead, interject.
You're skipping a whole part of the story where once we go our separate ways, we're still hanging out and we're still friends and everything. We're in 7th and 8th grade. All our classes are together. And this is the time where like you're maturing and I literally am not hitting puberty, and I think I'm still shorter than you at this point. Probably. And not confident whatsoever in myself. And the only thing that I was holding on to was I was a really good athlete. So I'd play sports a lot, and that's kind of like where our relationship as friends kind of started separating, because you were dancing a lot and at school, and I was playing soccer all the time. So I kind of quit skateboarding and doing extracurriculars and went all in on sports, and she kind of went all in on school and dance. But every day at school we would still hang out and chat and everything. And I just remember
on each other's class projects.
Yeah,
we would partner a lot, so we have a different reason for being on each other's projects. I thought we were just friends, and it was easier to be on each other's team for the projects, but he knew that it meant that I was going to take control of the entire project and quality control this thing, so he got the easy way out. But
I wouldn't say the easy way out. I had to do, like, I've always been pretty decent at presenting and doing, like, the things that like are annoying, and you've always been good at the.
I can't recall any specific project. I do remember though in AP Calc we were like doing a lot of the like problem solving stuff together, that's what the last I remember.
Yeah, but it was just we worked well together, and for me, looking back, like that's something that, I mean, I'm looking back and like I was falling in love with you, and I didn't know it, because again, you're in high school and you've got all these emotions and all the hormones and everything, and you just don't really know what's going on. And we're studying for college and everything, but looking back, I had a huge crush on her, and I just didn't have the confidence to even like reach out to her or tell her this. And then she starts dating someone else. So then obviously I'm like, okay, I got to move on. And I started dating somebody else, and through high school we did that. And I still remember when you got accepted to UPenn. I think I told you were going to be on TV or something, or wrote you something like that. But it was cool because she always wanted to go to University of Pennsylvania, and she got in. So I was super inspired by that. And then I ended up getting into Rutgers, and we both went for engineering, so we had that common thread. And like she was saying, we were seeing each other maybe once a year during holidays, and we were both dating other people, so it was just kind of passerby. We never hung out alone or really had any in-depth conversations.
Yeah, I never liked him. I really only ever saw CJ as a friend. Like, he was the closest guy friend I have, I would say. Like, I felt okay to hang out with him, like, by myself, just talking about, like, all the things. Never liked him in any way other than a friend. I don't know if you could say the same, but I truly never thought ever about, dating him until...
I mean, as a guy, it's tough because when you're at that age, there's so much temptation and all your guy friends are chirping about, like, all the girls are getting with and all these different things and parties. So I was never truly into, like, hopping around different people and different relationships. I was always on the search for, like, somebody that I could have deep conversations with and that inspired me, because that's what kind of we always had. But I found that lacking, and especially in college, because you're just not, especially at Rutgers, you're just not in the scenario where people having those conversations about life and what they want out of life and what inspires them and what they're trying to do. But that's where I think we always had a common thread, where anytime we were hanging out, it was never... Again, I wrote a post today.
It was always, like, very future focused, where we would talk about our future jobs and what we wanted to do and what we were doing, like, with sports and dance and things like that. I remember always just talking future focused. And
I wrote a post today about how it always made me feel like time stopped, because I was always lost in the conversation. And that's where, as I got older, I started digging into, what do I want out of a relationship? And that's what when I look back, that's what really lit my fire. And if we look back on how we even got into a relationship, I'll let you kind of take over now. But for me, it was a lot of, anytime we talked, it was just like, I got lost in the conversation.
So I think there was, probably after college, there was a pivotal point in each of our lives where we decided to take ownership of our lives. Like, we grew up in this smaller town. We both had pretty big aspirations, but again, we were just on a friend's level. I didn't keep up with you too much, other than when we would come home over the holidays and catch up with big friend groups. And so as soon as I graduated college, I decided I was going to take a job opportunity out in Texas. So I made that decision. It was pretty shocking to my family. They never saw it coming, that I was going to up and leave to Texas, but they were very supportive. And I just knew that I needed to give myself a chance in a different city, take a job, that I wanted to see what it was like to work as a project engineer. I had just gone to school for engineering, and I wanted to know if that's what I wanted to do. So I took that opportunity, and I think that was the point in my life where I was like, okay, I just made that huge decision. I did that. I moved. I went to a completely new city, knowing hardly anyone, and had to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. What did I want to do with my free time? What kinds of things did I enjoy? Who did I want to be? Who did I want to become? Just who was Erin? So I think at that point, I started to take more and more action to figure out exactly that, who I wanted to become. And on the flip side, I think you were doing something similar out in New York City. And so when we finally did reconnect several years later, I think it all stems back from this idea that we had already found who we were. We came together at a point when I was no longer searching for what I wanted out of life. I mean, of course, I still sometimes am thinking about what kind of impact do I want to leave on the world? Am I fulfilling my potential? Is there more I could be doing? But for the most part, I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I know what kind of person I want to show up in the world as every day. And I think you could say the same. And so when I think about the advice I could give to others out there in relationships or searching for a soulmate or somebody they want to spend the rest of their lives with, it's find out who you are first completely. Do not depend on somebody else to fill in the pieces for you. And once you know and are confident and comfortable with everything that you are, that other person should just compliment you. They should make you whole. They should bring out the best in you, but you shouldn't be relying on somebody else to determine where your life goes. So we ended up connecting Unfortunately, about a year after I moved out to Texas, my father tragically passed away, and CJ wasn't able to make it to the funeral back in New Jersey, but he, sent his condolences, and we kind of, hadn't seen each other since that point. But about, I would say, like 5 months after my dad passed, I got a letter, or I got an email, and it was from CJ, and I was out in Houston again at this time. It was really, really hard for me. It was just a huge tragedy that was completely unexpected, and I was just going through a ton of unexpected, unpredictable emotions, really just trying to get over the fact and figure out how I was going to handle all the personal stuff that I had to do as a result of this passing, and just how I was going to continue my life in a positive trajectory after this. And I got this letter from him, and it was like, I don't know, I felt like my world kind of stopped. It was, first of all, like the nicest thing anyone said to me at that time, and it's interesting because I was just thinking about how when something tragic happens, everything is like a blur. You don't remember what people say to you, nor do you care, really. But the fact that this happened like several months later, it was so impactful to me. And I think that was a point where I just completely changed my perspective on CJ as a person. And it was basically just, I'm thinking about you, I want to come visit you, I can't imagine what you're going through. And it was this long, really nice, well-written gesture. And at that point, I reached out and I was just like, hey, that was exactly what I needed. Thank you so much for being such a good friend. Would love for you to come out and see what Texas is like. So then, I guess a couple months went by, but...
Yeah, I mean, when I first wrote that, like the thoughts going through my head are, just like you said, I can't imagine that being on the flip side of that. And I knew... So I had moved, and I've always been kind of a loner, like even though I stayed close to home, but like I moved out and I knew what it was like to be alone, and that I can't imagine that happening when you're moving across the country and you wanted to start your life. And I've always been empathetic and put myself in people's shoes a lot. I get that from my mom, and I just remember thinking like I couldn't go to her funeral, and that broke my heart because of a job. I had my first internship and I had to go to the first week of it, and I was afraid that if I didn't go, something would happen. I didn't even go on a cruise that week. I was supposed to be on a cruise with my family, my mom's birthday, and wow, has my view on life changed since then. But it was one of those things where I just was in shock, I think, that happened, and because I'm empathetic in the beginning, I don't think I sent anything other than like, hey, I'm sorry if you need me, because I didn't want to take any spotlight or anything like that. But later on, I think what spurred me reaching out to you was you inspired me. And I was trying to decide, do I want to get out of New Jersey? And I really wanted to get out. And at that point, I wasn't as bold as I am now. I was still gaining my confidence, and that's where I reached out to you and was like, hey, somehow you went and you left and this happened to you and you're still going. Like, that inspires the hell out of me, and I want to support that, and I want you in my life at some capacity. So then we started emailing back and forth, and we were both on and off dating other people during this time. And I'm really fortunate we were doing that, because when I look back, I was finding myself and like who I wanted to spend time with, and you don't necessarily know when you're that age. So that's why I think a lot of people, they go in these long relationships when they're younger, and then they end up breaking up. And I don't hold any animosity of the things that were in my past, because it just led me to who I was supposed to become. And that's where I think people need to hear, if I was going to give a piece of advice, it's date people, have experiences, travel, do different things so that you find out what you like and what you don't like. The only way to figure that out is actually do. You can't sit here and read about relationships and life and business and fully understand it. You have to go out there and try different things. Take a different girl or guy out to dinner and see if how the conversation goes. Travel to different cities and see the different types of people and what it is that fuels your fire. Because when I moved to New York and I was like living the fast life, I learned real quick that making good money and like doing those things and going on dates and happy hours and all that thing didn't fulfill me. And it might have fulfilled a lot of other people, but I couldn't find that fulfillment. And that's where I kind of reached out to you, because you were inspiring the heck out of me. You'd made like a new fitness Instagram, and that's where I was going to work and lifting every day and just trying to find some sort of motivation to get out of the rat race at some capacity. So I still remember I was living in Union City, New Jersey, and I had a couple of roommates, and they were pressuring me they were older than me. They were in their early 30s, and I was like 23, 24. So they're asking me like, what do I want from life? What do I want to do? And I was like, I like to travel and XYZ, XYZ. There's this one girl that I've always had a crush on. And my roommate was telling me I should go fly to her. And me being younger and naive, I'm like, nah, like I can't do that. It's Texas. Like I can't just fly into Texas and visit. Like, meanwhile, you've been in New Jersey your entire life pretty much, and you've traveled a little bit, but you've never like fully just gone after something. And that's when I just remember like the pain just being so much of just going to work every day, working out, coming home, going to work every day, working out, coming home. And then on the weekends, I would blow a ton of money partying in New York City. And how unfulfilling that started to become. And that's when I reached out to you and was like, hey, I want to come to Texas. I don't know what it's like. Can I visit? And in my head, I was like, I'm going to visit for a week, because I'm really chill when it comes to visiting places. Like I can do my own thing and spend my own time. And like, you don't even have to take off like work. I'll just do my own thing. And she didn't know that side of me. So she was kind of stressed out.
Like I said,
I was coming for a
week. We were not that close as friends at this point. Like we had grown up close friends, but there was a lot of time in between where, again, I had moved, I had done a lot more things. We hadn't ever really spent any time one-on-one with each other as friends. So I did not know what to expect when he said he was going to come. I actually thought he was going to bring friends and you were going to make a trip out of it with other friends, and I was just going to be like a stop on your trip. I did not think that he meant like, oh, I'm just going to come by myself and crash your apartment for a week and you can still work. And so when he told me, I remember getting the text being like, yeah, I booked my trip. It's like July 4th to the 10th or something like that.
1st to the 8th.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. And I remember thinking like, that's 4th of July weekend, first of all. Second of all, I'm not going to take off that whole week of work just to sit in Houston with you. And so you're just going to have to occupy yourself while I go to work. So I remember telling my best friend, Brielle, like, because you had kept in close touch with her and would go up and visit her at grad school. And she was like, don't worry, he makes himself at home. Like, he'll be fine. He just will, you won't even notice he's there. So I'm like, okay, great. So CJ shows up July 1st. And the first day, I will say, like, I already felt like, wow, like this is going to be totally fine. Like we're talking nonstop. We got so much to catch up on. This is going to be a good week. I was panicking at first. So like I have no plans for this guy. Do I book a concert? I actually did. I booked a concert. I was like, and the Dynamo game, because I was like, we have to have like things lined up. And then as soon as he got there, I realized that he wasn't the type of person that needed activities, and I'm not like that. So I just felt this huge relief, and we just basically went about our, like, the life that I would have lived on my own that week. When he was there, he just kind of molded right in. And we had
so that comes from, because I'm sick, like because of my stomach issues, rushing around and feeling pressured to do things like makes me feel worse. So that's where I love just like, we always Airbnb now, because I love just going to cities and learning how people are living and understanding the culture and how it is. And I don't need to like rush around to these expensive things and do these other things. Like,
I mean,
it
everyone's
just
different,
stresses me
and
out.
I wasn't like that. And as soon as I knew that you were the same way, very just like easygoing, go with the flow, just have good conversation and relax, I was like, this is gonna be a good week. And it really, really was. And so that whole week went by like it was kind of like a whirlwind. We didn't really say anything to each other until the very end of the trip, where we had a lot of conversations about relationships and what we wanted out of life and what we wanted out of like our partner for life. And at the very end of the trip, it was just like, okay, this is a weird situation because we both feel this connection, but yet we've been friends our whole lives. We're different people now, but how do we go about, like, what do we do about this? So he was about to move to Nashville. Again, I was in Houston, and I was like, I really don't want to do long distance, and I really don't want to risk this friendship that we've built for all these years. And I was like, this could either be the person I spend the rest of my life with, or this is just going to end up where I lose a best friend. So at that point...
Yeah, I mean, I want to go into the rest of the story, but this video is about to cut out right now because it only does 30 minutes. It has like a governor on it, they would say. So I'm going to stop it real quick. And we're back. So yeah, going a little bit deeper into that week when I was there, we were having a ton of conversations about life and work and everything that we wanted for the next couple years. And I think for me on my end, like halfway through the trip, a lot of like what sparked my interest was you're working, you like to work out, you like to go to fitness classes, you're literally doing the same thing that I'm kind of doing, just in a different city and a different setting. And I'd always look for someone that had the same interests as me, but couldn't really find it. I think we never connected before this week the way that we did, because I was a heavy drinker and a partier, and I think a lot of that was because I was trying to find myself, and she kind of knew herself a little bit better earlier on. And
I always knew that wasn't who I was. I never really liked drinking. I never really liked partying. I was always really academic focused, into, not necessarily fitness, but I danced all my life. And then once I got to college and didn't dance anymore, I took up fitness as that outlet.
But you were way high strung, like, compared to
very,
where you're at now. And I was the opposite. I wasn't high strung, and I think I was starting to become more responsible, and she was starting to have a little bit more
high strung doesn't
lenience.
Equal responsible, but yeah,
no,
I
like,
get what you're saying.
Responsible of like of what I want. Like, I consider going out and blowing $100 every weekend on the bar is not responsible. And you were a little bit more responsible, but you started loosening up on what you want from life and trying new things. And I think when I visited you, we just met in the middle, and I was like, oh, this girl loves to dance, and we can go out have a drink or two and chat, but we're not going to stay out till 3 a.m. and be drunk. And that made me feel better, because again, having an illness, like, I need to sleep and I need to recover. And don't get me wrong, I like going out and having a good time, but there's a time and place for it. And I think at 20, how old were we, 24? Yeah, 24, I was kind of like growing up a little bit faster than when you live in the East Coast. It's a fast-paced lifestyle, work hard, play hard. And I didn't really want to do that anymore. I had all these other goals in life. I wanted to do fitness competitions and take classes and take courses online, and just started reading a lot. I wanted to travel a lot, and everything we were talking about just like lined up. And I just remember halfway through that week thinking, damn, I don't even want to move to Nashville. Like, this city is awesome. But now I look back and it was like, had nothing to do with the city. It was just being around you and seeing you work inspired the heck out of me. Seeing you wake up and just get after it every single day. And it just felt like, instead of me getting after it every day in this one bedroom in Union City, this other person is doing the same thing. Like, I started picturing, wow, this is the type of person that on a Friday night or Saturday night I can sit here and do a video with, and neither of us want to be anywhere else. Like, I felt like in my relationships before, with friends and with significant others, it was always people wanting to do something and me not always being all in on that, or vice versa. I wanted to do something and it wasn't all in, versus our lifestyles match up, and when we go into something, like, we're all in. Like, if we go to a spin class on a Friday night, we're all in on that. And then if we do this on a Friday night, we're all in.
I think that's another thing about our relationship. I've never felt like I've had to kind of just like do whatever you wanted to do, even though I didn't want to do it. Like, for the most part, we always are on the same page when it comes to the things we do, where it's never like, okay, my turn, his turn. Like, and I think that can sometimes take a toll on people. And so I think that was one of the biggest factors that has helped us have a successful relationship to this day, where we don't have to work that hard in that area of our relationship.
The way that I equate it is, you want to be around somebody who has a different personality than you, because you're a little bit more introverted, I'm a little bit more extroverted, so it works out. You help me recover and you give me energy, and then I give off that energy, and then we bring each other into these different scenarios to get us out of our own comfort zones. But our lifestyles match up on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and in times during the week. Like, we're doing pretty much the same thing that we want to be doing as a couple. And that would be my advice, is if you're seeking someone to spend the rest of your life with, like, life is really long. You don't want to every week having to sacrifice yourself too much. There is a give and a take. Like, we do sacrifice a little bit, but you don't want to have to always be the one sacrificing, because it's going to eat at you. And that's where I guess the discussion started happening, where when I went home, like I immediately knew. I remember I was smoking a cigar with my brother in our backyard of my parents' house, and I don't know what we were smoking a cigar for, but it had to be something, some occasion.
You're leaving.
No, I think, did he graduate high school or something? I think he graduated high school that year.
Not high school?
Yeah, no, not high school. College? Yeah, I don't remember. We were celebrating something, and I just remember telling him, like, I'm going to marry this girl. I know it seems crazy, but, like, I have to see her again. And I was moving to Nashville July 29th of 2015. I still remember the date. And in my head, I was going to drive to Nashville, which is 12 hours from New Jersey, and then put my shit all in my apartment, and then drive another 12 hours to Houston and ask her out. And she was kind of giving me some pushback with that. She was like, this is too fast. Like, I don't want to hurt our friendship. And in my head, I was just like, I waited my entire life to feel this confident and feel good enough about myself and about who I am, that this is my person. And as a male, like, I need to show that I'm willing to do anything under the sun to, like, make it known that I love you. And the only way I knew how was, like, driving 12 hours to go do this. And I'd love for you to tell them what's running through your head, because it's a completely different world. Like, I'm sitting there telling the story in my head in New Jersey of, I'm going to drive to Nashville and then unpack and then drive to Houston and, like, show up on my horse pretty much, and we ride off into the sunset. But that's not really how you were feeling until I actually got there.
I'm more of a risk-averse person, so in my head, I'm like, okay, long-term friendship, this could go off the rails. Like, he could drive all this way, and I might not even want to even be, like, I might not even want to see him. Like, I might be like, sorry you drove all this way, but, like, find a hotel or go somewhere else. I was actually nervous, because I also am empathetic. I'm thinking, this guy is, like, all in, gonna, like, come all the way out here to put his life on the line for this relationship, where I'm like, I have no idea what this is going to lead to. I don't know how I feel. And so I was staying open-minded, though, and I think that is another pivotal point of our whole story, which is you have to have an open mind. So instead of writing off a decision before you even go with the present moment, and just let yourself be in the moment and just enjoy or get what you want from it, like, just be in the present moment. I was like, all right, I'm going to be open-minded. I'm going to see how this goes. I had a good week the last time he came. I was not expecting that. He's a totally different person now. And because back in the day, like, no way would our personalities jive. Like, way too off the rails partying. I'm way too high-strung in the books. So he was like, not going to work. So, yeah,
we
it was just
that.
like,
we needed that, though. That's the thing that I want to tell people, is like, you need to just follow that. Like, follow. I don't regret a single thing, and I live with no regrets because I take action, and that's where I had decided that, like, I'm gonna drive to her. And the cool thing is, like, the way that my personality is, you could have been like yeah, I don't want to see you and whatever. And I'm very reciprocal. Like, I probably would have just been like, all right, I'll grab a hotel and like figure shit out.
And
like,
I knew that about you. I knew that you would be like that, so I wasn't nervous as much. But I also really respected that you had the audacity to think, okay, if I don't, I at least need to know that I've tried. I need to know that I gave this a shot and I went out on a limb and I'm going to give it my all. And that's, I always think about that even now, like, not in necessarily a relationship sense, but for anything in life, right? If you know, you can look back and say, well, I gave it my all and I tried, and if it didn't work out, it doesn't work out, but maybe it does, and it's the best thing that ever happened. And that's basically what happened with us. He tried, he went all in, and it ended up, we had an amazing time again. We took a trip to Austin, actually, and it's kind of ironic that we live here now and call this place home, but that ended up being like, okay, this seals the deal. I want to pursue a long distance relationship with you. So we did. And that was a long 7 months of back and forth every, I don't know, once or twice a month, just having long phone calls all the time. To anybody that's in a long distance relationship, they can understand. We would try to meet up in different cities. So it was like probably the most travel we've ever done together in such a short span of time. We tried to go to different places and see different cities and meet up at places other than Houston and Nashville. But that was when it was like, okay, this is the turning point where we're either together for the long haul or we need to end this soon. So me, I'm always the type that's like, I'm not going to waste my time. So if this, even at that age, like we were really young, but I was just like, I got a lot of things I want to accomplish in my life. If I'm not here to just like,
I think this is where like our friendship over the years helped, because we looked each other straight in the face and we're like, this is going to take sacrifice on both our ends.
Yeah.
And that's where, again, like you hit the nail on the head, where I was thinking in my head, I have to give this my all and give it a shot. And if I have to go back to Nashville and start my life completely over, that's okay. But I can't live here and deny the fact of what I'm feeling right now. I have to act on it. And that right there, like this space alone is a representation of, as soon as like I acted on that,
Austin too,
and my jobs and just everything just started lining up, because I started acting on my gut and what I felt without expectation. So I had no expectation when I drove to you. I had no idea what to expect when I got there. I was like, this girl could not come out. And then you came out and gave me a hug, and I was just like, oh my God, like a sigh of relief. And I was like, okay, now I got to make sure, like, what is the next thing, right? And that's where we came to Austin and just had this gut feeling in our hearts as well of, this is a city for us, and now look where we are and what we're manifesting. And that's where, like, I don't really want to go into from that point on until, I think we can leave that for another episode. But like, the way that I want to end this is talking about how the culmination of all that was just massive action on both of our parts. Like, you taking the action to leave our hometown first out of like a lot of the people around us inspired the hell out of me and probably a lot more other people out there. And then the fact that you went through a loss and kept going. And then once I came out there and then felt, you just transformed into this new person. And that's where in my head, I was like, I'm going to transform into this new person once I leave. And I was just like, that feeling just is an addictive feeling. And I think that's what we're living in right now.
But I think a lot of it, and the point that I would like to wrap up with as the moral of this whole talk, is it's taking action, but it's also going a lot with your gut and following your heart. Because I'm somebody that loves a plan. I love strategy. I love to sit there and think of all the logical reasons why you should do a certain path or not do a certain path. Like, that is my bread and butter. It's actually my full-time job. And I will tell you, you know, the best things that happen in the course of your life are a result of just action. And oftentimes you cannot back it up with any particular logic. It's just, do you feel like it's the right choice in your heart? And that's what led us to each other. That's what led us to Austin. That's what led us to all the things that have happened since we reconnected and all the way up until then. And I think that a lot of people out there get stuck in this motion of a checklist for a person. an idea of what that person is like, what qualities they have, all these things, like that's important, but you're never going to find that if you don't know. Like, you might think in your head that certain thing is right, but if you never go out there to experience other people and just the world, then you never know. So I think it's just decisive action, following the heart, and just keep moving forward and remembering that those actions are what propel you all the way forward. And
I think
going all in.
You need to ask yourself, what story do you want to tell at the end of every day, every week, every month, and the end of your life? Like, what story is it that you want to say to yourself in your head? Because
for you, not for anybody else.
Not for anybody else. We're talking to ourselves constantly in our head each and every day. It's human nature. And you can either tell yourself this story of, I wish I could do that, I wish I could be that person, I wish I could stand up for myself or be that strong. Well, it really just takes you just doing it and building a little bit of momentum. And for me, it started in fitness and just working out, and then seeing the change there, and then reading and seeing the change mentally. And then it took years until I was able to be confident enough to like really step into, I'm gonna go after the person that I believe is for me. And if I don't, I'm going to regret it. And if I do and it doesn't work out the way I think, then I'm still okay with it because I'm so confident in where I'm going with my life. And that's where I think a lot of people, it's all about, you need to be selfish to be selfless. And I think Erin and I started being a little bit more selfish with our time and what we wanted from life earlier than some of the other people in our lives. And that led us now to be selfless in a lot of the things we do for the community, with this space, with our time. And it all started with just deciding what is for us and what is not for us. And that's kind of like how I want to end this episode, is if you can define deep down, rooted in your core, what is for you and what is not for you, you're going to know right away, whether it's in your romantic relationships, in your business relationships, in your friendships, where you should be spending your time. Because just like we said earlier, like, this kind of story kind of happened because of a loss. Your time is not guaranteed. And you need to remind yourself each and every day that your time's not guaranteed, and that you need to take action on anything that comes to your mind. So I think that wraps it up for the first Honest Conversation. I had a lot of fun.
Stay tuned for the next one.
And we'll wrap that up.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Until next time, thrive on.
Thrive on.